French Connection, The Conversation, Superman. Gene Hackman has died at the age of 95.
Agents from the FBI did not expect.
When the news broke in early 2025 that Gene Hackman, one of the greatest actors Hollywood had ever produced, had been found dead inside his sprawling Santa Fe, New Mexico estate, the world stopped. Not just because a legend had passed, but because of how he was found, and what the discovery revealed about the final, silent chapter of a man who had spent decades commanding the screen. The story that unfolded was not the kind of farewell anyone expected for a two-time Academy Award winner. It was strange, haunting, and filled with questions that investigators are still working to answer. Two maintenance workers arrived at the property for what was supposed to be an ordinary day of routine work. What they encountered instead was anything but ordinary. The front door of the mansion was open, not ajar, but open, as if someone had left in a hurry, or perhaps as if no one had thought to close it at all. Two dogs were found roaming the grounds freely, alive but unsupervised. And then, as the workers moved further inside, the discovery turned grim. Gene Hackman, 95 years old, was found in a small room near the back of the house. A cane and a pair of sunglasses lay near his body, suggesting he may have fallen. His wife, Betsy Arakawa, 65, was found on the other side of the home, in the bathroom, lying near a countertop where prescription pills were scattered and an open pill bottle sat in plain view. What made the scene even more difficult to process was the condition of the bodies. Investigators and officials who arrived at the scene were reportedly stunned. The level of decomposition indicated that both Hackman and Arakawa had been dead for a significant period of time before anyone realized something was wrong. In dry, warm conditions, and a knocked-over space heater near Arakawa's body suggested the indoor air may have been particularly arid. The human body can mummify over the course of days to weeks. That appears to be exactly what happened inside the Hackman mansion. According to forensic experts consulted by various media outlets, the state of the bodies was consistent with death having occurred weeks before discovery. Inside the house, a third pet, a dog, was found dead inside a crate. The fact that two dogs survived while one perished in an enclosed crate painted a heartbreaking picture. The surviving dogs had presumably found ways to access food or water, while the crated dog had no such option. This detail alone told investigators something important. The couple had been gone long enough for a healthy animal to starve. It was, in the words of one experienced investigator quoted in media reports, deeply unusual. A professional who claimed to have handled thousands of death cases over a long career described the scene as an anomaly. Two people found dead at the same time, in different rooms, with no immediately obvious cause. It's not adding up. One investigator was quoted as saying, "Initial theories pointed toward carbon monoxide poisoning. It was a logical first step. The home was large, the bodies had been there a long time, and CO poisoning can be silent and deadly." Authorities called in the New Mexico Gas Company to inspect every gas line on the property. Investigators from the fire department conducted their own sweep. The result? No gas leak was found. No carbon monoxide issue was detected. That early and seemingly tidy explanation evaporated, leaving behind only more questions. The cause of death, as of the time major investigations were ongoing, remained officially undetermined. What struck many people was not just the mystery of the deaths themselves, but the mystery of how no one had noticed sooner. Gene Hackman was not an unknown man hiding in obscurity. He was a Hollywood icon with family, friends, a public legacy, and a property significant enough to require maintenance visits. Yet according to everything that has been reported, neither he nor his wife had been seen or heard from for what appeared to be weeks. His daughter Leslie and Hackman, speaking to the press after the discovery, expressed her own disbelief. She described her father as a man who, even at 95, was reportedly in remarkably good physical condition. He practiced Pilates and yoga several times a week. There had been no major surgeries in the months leading up to his death, no alarming health episodes that his family had been made aware of. His daughter described his marriage to Betsy as deeply happy, calling Betsy the person who kept her father going and who watched over his health with great dedication. That detail made Betsy Arakawa's death, at only 65, feel especially shocking to those close to the family. She was young, apparently healthy and devoted. The idea that both of them could be gone, silently, without anyone knowing, for such an extended period seemed almost impossible to reconcile. Investigators, for their part, have been careful not to rush to conclusions. In cases where bodies have been left undiscovered for weeks, establishing a precise timeline of events becomes extraordinarily difficult. Toxicology reports, which take weeks or even months to return full results, would be critical in determining whether any substances, medications, environmental toxins, or otherwise, played a role. Autopsy results were expected to provide some clarity, but even those come with limitations when decomposition has significantly progressed. Several theories have circulated in the weeks since the discovery. One theory is that Hackman suffered a medical event, a fall, a cardiac episode, or some sudden onset illness, and that Arakawa, upon finding him, experienced her own crisis. The pills scattered near her body in the bathroom raised questions about whether she had taken something intentionally or accidentally, or whether they had simply spilled during a medical emergency. Another theory holds that the couple may have made a mutual decision, given their ages and health circumstances, though this is complicated significantly by the fact that they were found in entirely different rooms, which does not fit the typical profile of such a scenario. Investigators have also noted that there were no signs of forced entry into the home, and no clear injuries on either body consistent with violence from an outside party. Gene Hackman's life before this haunting final chapter was one of the most storied in the history of American cinema. He was not handed his success. He scraped and fought for every inch of it. His early days at the Pasadena Playhouse in California were marked not by admiration from his peers, but by skepticism. He was, by some accounts, considered among the least likely to succeed. That judgment, rather than breaking him, appeared to fuel him. He formed a lasting friendship during those early years with fellow student Dustin Hoffman, and the two struggled together through the lean years of auditions and rejections that defined so many early acting careers. Hackman's breakthrough came through persistence and raw talent. His role as Buck Barrow in the 1967 film Bonnie and Clyde announced him to the world with force. The performance earned him an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor and shifted the industry's perception of what he was capable of. From there, his trajectory was steep and remarkable. In 1971, William Friedkin's The French Connection cemented his place in Hollywood history. His portrayal of Detective Jimmy Popeye Doyle, rough, driven, morally complicated, earned him the Academy Award for Best Actor. The film itself became a landmark of American cinema, influencing crime films for decades. 3 years later came The Conversation, directed by Francis Ford Coppola, one of the most psychologically rich performances of Hackman's career. He played Harry Cole, a surveillance expert consumed by guilt and paranoia. The film was nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards and demonstrated that Hackman was not simply a screen presence, but a genuine actor of remarkable depth. He went on to appear in over 80 films across genres, westerns, action, drama, comedy, navigating each with the kind of ease that separates truly great actors from merely good ones. In 1978, he played Lex Luthor in Superman opposite Christopher Reeve, bringing wit and menace to a comic book villain in a way that felt completely organic. The role became iconic. In 1992, he reunited with Clint Eastwood for Unforgiven, the revisionist western that remains one of the finest American films of that era. Hackman's performance as the sadistic sheriff Little Bill Daggett earned him his second Academy Award, this time for Best Supporting Actor. Eastwood, in his statement following Hackman's death, said simply that no actor was more talented, that his performances were always real and powerful, and that beyond the craft, Hackman had been a close friend whose absence would be deeply felt. Morgan Freeman, who also appeared in Unforgiven, joined the chorus of tributes from an industry that had been shaped in no small part by what Hackman had contributed to it. Gwyneth Paltrow, who worked with him on the Royal Tenenbaums, the Wes Anderson film in which Hackman delivered one of his most surprisingly funny and layered late-career performances, posted a tribute on social media with a photo of the two of them together. After retiring from acting in 2004, citing the advice of his doctor regarding the stress his heart condition placed on his ability to handle demanding work, Hackman retreated entirely from the public eye. He moved to Santa Fe with Betsy, and by most accounts, built a quiet, contented life. He painted, he fished, he rode his bicycle, a habit that famously landed him in a Florida hospital in 2012 when a pickup truck struck his bike from behind while he was riding without a helmet on his Silverado. He walked with a cane in his final public appearances. He co-wrote historical fiction novels with archaeologist Daniel Lenihan, and wrote crime and Western fiction on his own. He found, it seemed, a version of peace that the pressure-filled decades in Hollywood had rarely afforded him. The last confirmed public sighting of Gene Hackman alive was outside a restaurant in New Mexico, holding onto Betsy's arm for support, appearing frail but present. That image, the old man leaning on his wife, still out in the world, still moving through it, is the image that now sits at painful contrast with what was found inside his home weeks, or perhaps months later. His daughters Elizabeth and Leslie, along with his granddaughter Annie, released a statement that captured the weight of what the family was carrying. They wrote that while millions had admired him as an actor, to them he had simply been dad and grandpa. They described his loss as leaving an emptiness that words cannot fill. That emptiness, the unanswered questions, the strange circumstances, the open door, the scattered pills, the dogs, the silence that apparently stretched across weeks, all of it has left the public with an unsettled feeling that goes beyond ordinary grief. Gene Hackman lived a full, extraordinary, complicated life. He deserved a clear and understood ending. Whether investigators will ultimately provide one, with toxicology results, autopsy conclusions, and a formal cause of death, remains to be seen. Until then, the mansion in Santa Fe holds its secrets, and the world holds its breath.